The Siege of Coria in July 1138 was the first and shorter of two attempts to take the city of Coria by Alfonso VII of León. Coria had previously been reconquered in 1079 by Alfonso VI. It was lost to the Almoravids not long after Alfonso's death in 1109. On the heels of a successful razzia deep into Islamic al-Andalus, Alfonso VII briefly invested the city before retiring. A second siege in 1142 was successful. The main source from the siege is the second book of the contemporary chronicler Alfonso Imperatrice, Preparations. Besides the knights of the royal household, the king was accompanied by the private followings of his leading barons, such as the brothers Count Rodrigo Martinez and Osorio Martinez, and by a contingent of militia from the nearest Christian city, Salamanca. The king also brought with him physicians and surgeons. Before investing Coria, Alfonso sent plundering companies to the city to capture the men, women and all the livestock in the fields. The Corians responded with a sally, but the plundering troops feigned retreat and led the Muslims into an ambush prepared by Alfonso, where they were all cut down. The city responded by shutting its gates and fortifying them with timbers. Alfonso moved his camp close by the city. The besieging forces were inadequate for the task, and Alfonso sent messengers into the Extremadura and the province of Leon threatening to confiscate the property of any knights and foot soldiers did not come offended the emperor. Siege. The conduct of the infantry armed with spears, swords and clubs, and also of the archers, crossbowmen and slingers, was distinguished in light of the paucity of cavalry, but not enough to alter the result. Siege engineers also played a prominent role, but they played an even greater part in the Second Siege of Coria in 1142. The machines present are described by the chronicler as high wooden towers that actually reached above the city walls, engines, and mantlets. The town was successfully shut off and nobody was said to have been able to either leave or enter. The day before the actual assault on the walls had begun, Alfonso decided to go into the mountains to hunt deer, boar and bear, leaving Rodrigo Martinez in command of the siege. The next morning the magnate led an unsuccessful assault on the walls, in which he was wounded by an arrow while climbing one of the siege towers. The arrow pierced both his headpiece and his corselet, and the iron head struck his neck. Although Rodrigo was able immediately to remove it, the surgeons were unable to staunch the hemorrhaging and he succumbed some hours later. Neither the conjurers nor the physicians could stop the bleeding. Finally Rodrigo said to those around him, "Take off my arms, for I am extremely disheartened." Immediately they removed his arms and carried him to his tent. Throughout the entire day they attempted to cure his wound. Around sunset all hope in medicine was lost, and he died. As soon as the news had spread through the camp, there was tremendous mourning, more than anyone had imagined. Upon returning from the mountains, the emperor was informed of the consul's death. He learned the cause upon entering the camp. Alfonso gathered all of his advisers and in the presence, he appointed Osorio, Rodrigo's brother, to be consul in his place. The next day Alfonso, realizing his many misfortunes, yielded to fate and lifted the siege. The noblemen each returned to their homes while the king accompanied the militia to Salamanca. Rodrigo's brother, now Count Osorio, and the former's retainers carried Rodrigo's body back to Leon.